It seems like we are heading almost into World War III with Islam. I don't see European powers taking much action. Our current U.S. administration is not only doing very little about it, they're empowering Islam. They empowered Islam through the Arab Spring. Islam is empowered due to an America leading from behind. They know they can get away with literal murder, and they're not going to be challenged. I mean, the infamous Red Line in Syria was a joke, and some other things as well. Again, it doesn't seem like anybody's going to check this whole move. Do you see anybody who can do this?
From a human standpoint, no.
Yeah.
God can always sovereignly intervene, raise up somebody to do that if he chooses to do that. Or do we sit back and say, well, this is what the predictions said would happen in the future, so we don't rejoice in that. Continue to pray for people that are caught behind this Islamic curtain around the world. But I think we have to also recognize that the inadequacy of the Western leaders to confront these things is an expose of the spiritual emptiness of Western culture, that without God, there is no answer. And we have leaders who have walked away from serious biblical principles in almost every area of life, and we continue to do so. The more we keep rejecting the standards of Scripture, the more we ourselves invite the judgment of God. And when judgment fell even on ancient Israel in Jerusalem, that doesn't mean that every single person in Jerusalem was evil. The prophet Jeremiah had warned them of what was coming, and yet he himself had to watch the destruction that followed. Now, while on the one hand, I'm a firm believer that the Lord will come one day to rapture the church home to heaven, because I don't believe we are the object of divine wrath, at the same time, we can certainly be the object of human wrath and Satan's wrath. And you have this growing hostile atheism and secularism, even in America now, that wants to vilify Christianity as though we were the enemy and we're the problem. And then this politically correct, let's all get together, hold hands, and sing Kumbaya and have world peace is extremely naive. And I think all of what's happening right now has exposed the failure of those kinds of policies. You cannot expect unreasonable people to be reasonable just because you want to be reasonable.
I don't think we can expect them to be a democracy either. A democracy in an Islamic nation is likely never going to work. Islam is not compatible with democracy. Turkey once was the exception, and now that's falling apart as democracy is waning there as well. Would you agree?
Yeah, exactly. Democracy depends, as the shapers of American democracy said, and as de Tocqueville and others observed from the outside, depends on a moral basis that if we're going to let everybody have a vote in major issues, that we are assuming that they're doing that out of a Judeo-Christian ethical context, and as that context erodes in America, we see people voting shockingly the wrong way so many times. That context has not existed in the Middle East since the 7th century, when Muhammad wiped it out by force. I always think of Jesus' warning in Matthew 24. There will be false prophets will arise, and there will be wars and rumors of wars in the days to come. Well, there have been many, many, many false prophets, but no prophet has had the influence numerically that Muhammad had. 1 billion followers on planet Earth. That attitude is not going to just change overnight. There's never been a spiritual reformation in that movement. Women have virtually no voice of sanity within that religion to say, stop all this extremism. I don't see from a human or biblical standpoint change. You're up against, I believe, a false religion inspired by the devil himself, and he's standing back laughing at the chaos that has resulted from all of this. Only God can turn this around.